Welcome to Sounds of Resistance channel. The conditions of the Ukraine-Russia war are getting hotter. The Ukrainian army greatly increased its gains in the eastern Donbas region with the dispersal of the Russian troops, turning the war in their favor with the help of the USA and its Western allies. Ukraine wants to continue its counterattacks without slowing down, thanks to these weapons support. The Ukrainian army, which has reclaimed most of its lands on the battlefield, is now holding the Russians in a pinch. With Russian troops so weakened, the Ukrainian armed forces want to deliver the finishing blow. In order for the Ukrainian army to drop the finishing punch against the Russians, the US and other Western allies of Ukraine should not withhold their military aid and financial support. Ukraine, which currently dominates an area close to 80%, is gradually clearing the invading troops from its country. It is even claimed that if the military and financial aids of the West and the USA continue, the duration of the Ukraine-Russia war will be shortened. The Ukrainian government was waiting for news that would seriously affect the war. That news, that shocking development concerning NATO and the Eastern Bloc, finally took place. The shock step that will steer the world's agenda into dust and smoke came from the USA. In July, Poland procured about 115 used M1A2 ABRAMS main battle tanks from the US government. There is talk of sending these tanks, which were used for a short time and made ready for war, to Ukraine. When Poland received 115 M1A2 ABRAMS tanks from the United States in July, in a move that would drive the Russian administration crazy, the Polish government sent over 200 PT-91 Twardy tanks to Ukraine. This created a cold shower effect in the Kremlin. Currently, the Ukrainian army has managed to liberate Kharkiv with their PT-91 main battle tanks. When the Ukrainian administration provides the supply of M1A2 ABRAMS tanks, which are expected to come from Poland and the USA, the war will become quite unbearable for the Russians. The reason why the Russian administration is angry about the love of US-made ABRAMS battle tanks to Poland is actually very clear. After the United States had exported about 250 ABRAMS battle tanks to Poland, the Polish government was planning to send 115 ABRAMS battle tanks they had received in July to Ukraine. The M1A2 ABRAMS battle tanks have features that will affect the impact of the war very serious degree. The most distinctive feature is that it has a much longer range than the Russian tanks. These tanks, which are extremely resistant to Stinger missiles and all other Russian weapons, can take Ukraine very high in the war. For all these reasons, the Russian administration sees the dispatch of these tanks to NATO's Eastern Bloc as a threat to them. The shipment of 115 M1A2 ABRAMS tanks from Poland to Ukraine was delayed a lot. The Ukrainian government had long ago voiced the transfer of these tanks to its country. But due to certain logistical obstacles, the tanks have not yet reached Ukraine. In addition, ABRAMS battle tanks need serious maintenance and repair, in addition to their superior performance. In addition, spare parts for these tanks are also vital. In case of any malfunction, spare parts will also be needed. The Ukrainian government is looking forward to news from Poland and the USA. The Russian administration, on the other hand, is in a very uneasy state. As the war begins to reveal itself, if the ABRAMS, who are planned to come from Poland, are sent to Ukraine, the war may even come to an end for Russia. The decision to send ABRAMS tanks, which are equipped to end the Ukraine-Russia war, to Ukraine by the United States is still unclear. The reason for this is that if the US sends ABRAMS battle tanks to Ukraine, Russia's red lines will be crossed, and Russia will again present its nuclear threat as a trump card to the table this time. The US government has not yet sent the M1A2 ABRAMS battle tanks to Ukraine, as it is concerned about the situation. Polish Prime Minister Jarosław Kaczyński announced on 14 July that Warsaw has produced 250 M1A2 ABRAMS main battle tanks from the United States, specifically the third version of the newest SE PV M1A2 variant ABRAMS tanks, which started delivery to US Army units last year. The cost of these tanks amazes those who hear. The total cost of 250 tanks is $6 billion. Poland supplied 25% of the 250 M1A2 tanks from the USA. In the future, the US government plans to carry out the entire shipment. Polish Defense Minister Mariusz Błaszczak stated that ABRAMS will be deployed to eastern Poland and will serve as a first line of defense close to the borders of Ukraine, Belarus, Lithuania, and the fortified Russian outer zone, Kaliningrad. Because the maintenance and repair of ABRAMS battle tanks is very important, there is a US Armored Brigade combat team in the Polish Armed Forces. Looking at today's period, Poland is defined as NATO's armored trench. In addition, Poland is counted as the main stronghold of the USA in the Eastern Bloc. The shipment of 250 M1A2 ABRAMS battle tanks to Poland infuriated the Russian administration. Some of the top Russian generals were completely disenchanted with the war. The Kremlin administration and Russian leader Vladimir Putin were completely against the shipment of these tanks to Poland. So why is the Russian administration so afraid of these tanks? The superior armor, firepower, and sensors of the ABRAMS tanks are capable of completely destroying Russia's lighter 45 to 50-ton T-72's and T-90A tanks in a head-to-head engagement. In addition, the ABRAMS battle tanks have a longer range than the tanks in the Russian army. In particular, Poland also has the third variant that can be integrated into the ABRAMS battle tanks. In addition to the ABRAMS battle tanks, the Ukrainian government wants to produce the Leopard battle tanks produced by Germany. Leopard battle tanks are also very effective and also require much less fuel than ABRAMS tanks. Several countries, including Spain, sought permission from Germany to deliver Leopard tanks to Ukraine, but permissions were denied as Berlin continued to grapple with its long-standing policy of refusing to export weapons to conflict zones. The German defense company Rheinmetall also sought government approval to export 88 Leopard tanks to Ukraine, but Berlin refused to allow it. The Germans are populating smaller countries that are sending their own armored tanks to Ukraine. The German government has promised to transfer 15 Leopards from its own stocks to Czech Republic after sending its Russian-made tanks to Kiev in May. In August, the Berlin administration sent 15 more Leopards to Slovakia to replace the 30 armored infantry fighting vehicles they had donated. Since the decision to send tanks and military equipment to foreign countries, which caused chaos in the German government, caused serious debates in the parliament, the shipment of tanks and weapons to Ukraine was quite delayed. After all the discussion in the German government, Germany, which abandoned its traditional foreign policy line and shelved the decision not to send weapons to the conflict areas, this time gave the green light to send heavy weapons to Ukraine after the latest developments. Germany's shock decision could change everything, because the Ukrainian armed forces need much more powerful and dynamic tanks than the Soviet-era tanks they are currently using. The Russian government is content to follow all these developments closely. The Russian administration and senior generals in the Russian army who could not stop Ukraine's tank supply plans and its advance on the front are eagerly awaited how they will react if these tanks are supplied to Ukraine. The Ukraine-Russia war is getting seriously weird. If the US and Ukraine's Western allies send these tanks, their spare parts and other military equipment to the Ukrainian army, maybe we will no longer use the word war. Stay cool for now. Don't forget to follow us.